Hey, this is John Casman, and we are back with some bonus footage with today's guest, Mr. Dave Holman. Now, Dave, we talked about, the Coffee Smuggler, the book that you've written in the feature episode. And anyone who wants to check that out, make sure you check out the full length episode with Dave. But I want to talk about tips to be a better writer. So, two things with everybody I talk to, they struggle with becoming a better writer. They say, hey, I'm not a good writer. I don't really want to write a blog. I don't know how to write a book. I'd love to do those things. I just don't know how. I need to be a better writer. And then the second thing is people who started a book, they started a blog, and they're, a quarter of the way through, halfway through, and they just can't get the darn thing finished. So I want to talk about how to be a better writer and how to actually finish a product that you're working on. Let's start with that. As you wrote your 3 books, what are some tips or some insights that you could share to be a better writer?
I would recommend something that's worked for me very well, which is scratching your own itch. Write for yourself. Write the story that you are entertained by. I do not care if a single other reader is entertained by it, but if you stick to something that really motivates and excites you, it will appeal to the niche that you're trying to appeal to, because there are people like you. So I would just say, don't think about trying to target something because of a sales reason or a marketing reason. Just write what you really love to read. And I think that will help you make progress. Another strategy of mine has been keeping a little writing like timesheet, just in like Google spreadsheets, where it's like my start time, my stop time, the amount of words I wrote or edited. And then I take metrics from that. It's like, how am I doing? Am I, 100 words a minute or 10 or, whatever it is. But that exercise, it keeps you on track with time. It kind of makes you accountable to yourself to do things. You have to do it each day. And I think, one of my good friends, he's a great writer, Shayan Mukherjee, I was talking with him about my struggles in writing Coffee Smuggler because I just wasn't inspired. He's like, dude, you can't wait for inspiration. You just got to get your butt in the chair and treat it like a job. And I was like, you're right. I do. And so I think the more that you can regiment yourself and just be like, nope, these are the 37 minutes a day that I have to be in this chair. I have to turn off the internet and I have to write. It doesn't matter if it's bad writing. It can be the worst writing in the whole world or editing, but it has to be happening in that time period. I cannot, will not fail to do it. And then I think you'll make incredible progress. And by God, when the 37 minutes is up, you might re-up for another because you're so in the flow of what you're doing. But that discipline of a daily thing, you've got to live in your book. If you let that book sit for a week, a month, a year, you might as well start fresh because you've lost all the characters in your head. Stephen King's book on writing is a really good one. I'm not like a huge horror reader. I haven't read most of his horror books, but his book on writing is phenomenal. And that's one of the pieces of advice I got from it.
No, it's great tips, man. It reminds me of a conversation we had with Robert Bly. He goes by Bob Bly. So we had Bob on the show back on episode 175, and Bob has written 85 books. And I was like, how is that possible? And he talked about exactly what you said. He's like, I just sit my butt in the chair, and that's it. There's no excuses. I just park in the chair and I write for the time that I've allotted. And, if the information flows and it's there, great. If I struggle, that's okay. I'm just going to sit in that chair and struggle. And he also said a tip that I thought was interesting. It's like, you should, if you're he's a professional writer, so it's a little different for him. But he was saying he always likes to have a few different projects going, because if he runs into a wall on one project, he'll just switch to the next project and then he'll start writing on that and then he'll come back to it. And I'm like, dude, that's crazy. Like, but it's a great tip, man. And I think to that point, sometimes the answer is pretty easy. And what I heard you say is track your time, which is probably the thing that most people don't do. So actually track your time. If you said you've blocked an hour to write, did you actually write? How many words did you write? Actually monitor that so you can see what you're doing, and what you measure, that becomes important. So if you can measure that, that's how you actually get that traction. The other thing you talked about was obviously just sitting in the chair and writing and parking that time. So great tips there. Now I got to transition to the next side of it, right? People, they write, they struggle to get finished, or you just get to the point where maybe your imagination just dies up and you're not really inspired anymore. You're halfway through something and you're no longer even inspired by it. It starts to become a chore. Maybe you've been writing a blog for a couple of months and you're not inspired to write the next blog. I mean, how do you overcome those challenges?
I can't speak to blogging because I'm not a blogger and I've not been consistent in that regard. But certainly with a book, you've got to get it out. And that I like to set myself a deadline and say, all right, I'm either going to get it, published or self-published by this date. And that way, it's a drop dead timeline and you can set milestones along that. I use Kickstarter for two of my three books. The one was formally published and the other two I use Kickstarter because Kickstarter, the book has to basically be done by that point, but it forces you, I just raised the money to print it and raised the money to do the graphic design, that needed to be done. Like, I don't know how to make an ebook, but there's people who do, and they can do it for you. And, at that time, again, just like with real estate, I didn't have money of my own, but, you can crowdfund these things. You can go to other people in your network who will invest in you. And so that was a great resource for me and found it's a lot of fun. I mean, now I wouldn't need to use Kickstarter, but I'm almost tempted to, anyway, because it'd be such a fun way to kind of birth a creative project into the world.
No, I love it, man. Great tips there. And if you can do that, now you've got a deadline, but you also have other folks who know that this product is coming. So you kind of have more accountability and that pressure on you to actually sit down and get it done. That's a great point there. I want to go back to the being a better writer. Is there something specific to actually improve your writing skills to actually, I mean, whether it be a technique, a practice, or is there something you could do to actually become a better writer?
Yeah, there's quite a few things. Not all of them will work for everyone. What I did that really helped me, I had, written probably, I don't know, 10 drafts of Coffee Smuggler at this point. I just draft after draft. And after a while, editing your own work, like I would have an idea, I would write it in, and then I would read 2 or 3 sentences down. I'm like, oh, I already added that 3 drafts ago. It's like, it's redundant. You're just chasing your own tail after a certain point. Like your own capabilities are limited. So I went to a family friend who's a writer, who's written a lot of books. He's never published a single one of them. He's just a strange guy. He's very quiet, keeps to himself. He's written like 17 or 18 books, and he keeps them for his own enjoyment. And I went over and he said, bring your manuscript printed out and we'll give it a read. And we spent like 6 or 7 hours on the first 10 pages, and we didn't get beyond that. So that's like an hour a page. And, the ink was just thick and heavy in there. And he said, okay, I've gotten you to think about every word in every sentence. Why is it there? What is it achieving? What path does it put you on? Why is that word there? Every sentence, and he helps me find kind of repetitive habits where I was using similar phrases too much or things like that. But he taught me to edit my own work in a way that I couldn't on my own. So I would say, go find a really good editor. Sit down with them, or COVID permitting or whatever, Zoom with them and just drill down on a very small part of your writing, rip it apart, have them teach you why they're making the changes they're making or suggesting. And then you can go and do that to your whole manuscript. And that really helped me. So weirdly enough, with real editing, I now print it out. I use a pen. I do that all. And then I go make the changes in Word. It was funny. This guy, I mean, he's like, you can't edit on the computer. It can't be done. It's like, okay, dude, pretty sure it can, but I'll do it your way. Like, we'll try it. And sure, it was very helpful to just kind of get out of your normal zone and do something different. So I would say, find people that can help you and have them teach you, how to improve, because no matter how good your writing is, it can get better.
Dave, excellent points there, and something that's very actionable for us to do. If you want to be a better writer, go find an editor, sit with them, let them go through your work, listen to their feedback, ask them questions, incorporate that into your writing process. Excellent tips, very actionable for you to become a better writer. Dave, thanks for this bonus footage here. Great insights for us all to become better writers and add better content out into the marketplace. Thank you. If you guys missed the full episode with Dave, again, check that out. It's a great conversation about how he made his journey from Bolivia all the way to Maine and started to build his real estate portfolio. But thanks again for coming on the show, man. You take care and have a great day.
You too. Thanks a lot.